My name is Danny Patterson. I'm an advisor with the Gulf Coast Fund. I also work as Community Economic Development Director at the Community Foundation of South Alabama in Mobile, Alabama. It's a pleasure to have a minute or two to discuss a few things that have happened since the oil disaster, and we do recognize it as a disaster and not a spill. A spill is something that you can knock a cup over and you can see the spill, but this was an absolute disaster to our economy, to our environment, and more importantly to the people that live along the Gulf Coast. There are a few things that I think I want to highlight that have happened since the oil disaster, and I still see them as being issues today. Number one, I think we have underestimated the impact mentally to our people from this disaster. One example would be the increase in domestic violence that happened since the oil disaster. We have people along the Gulf Coast, especially down in the southern part of Mobile and Baldwin County, who have experienced an increase in domestic violence, an increase in road rage, and that's been documented by some of the people in the Battle of Battery and coding communities as an increase from the police department of accidents and just absolute, road rage, which translates into issues at the home. I spoke to several people that I know in the area directly impacted by the oil disaster, and they made it real clear that the tension that was created from this disaster in the same family was an absolute horrific matter. There are people that were sons and fathers who both have boats and vessels in the waters, and one would be included in the Vessel of Opportunity program and one would not. And the one that was not included in the program received no earnings, no income, and the impact on that family resulted in more domestic violence. One lady was telling me that her husband would go outside. He had no work from this disaster. The boats were stopped. He would go out and sit on his truck and look out at the water all day. And at the end of the day, he would come inside and start the violence all over. She did not know what to do. She didn't know how to go ask for help. So there's an undercurrent of issues that are still there in our community that nobody sees or hears about since the disaster. So that's an issue that still needs more help. Now, Alabama Mental Health Department have contracted with some local parts of the organizations down here in this part of the state, and they have placed some resources on this so that people can begin to speak out and get some assistance, especially in our Asian community down in the southern part of the county. There's a culture there that you don't even speak about issues like this among their culture, and oftentimes they would not want to talk. Therefore, the agencies that are there to help them don't know about the problem unless someone brings it to their attention. So that's one of the things that we need to be cognizant of, is that there are people in cultures that do not respond well to these types of disasters. So that's one thing. Another area that I would like to bring out that I think is still an issue, it still is a gap, is the entire focus around assets. Personal assets and wealth creation that has been impacted by this oil disaster continues to be a gap. And what I'm speaking to particularly is that when the income stopped for many of these families, they were not able to pay notes, to pay bills, to pay mortgages, and they began to lose assets. Foreclosure rate increased. The people were not able to go buy school uniforms when this hit. There was a lot of things that began to be impacted in the family's finances. So the claims process, whether it was slow, fast, or indifferent, it was not fair to a lot of people. Some people received checks, some did not. There were people that worked shrimp processing plants down there that were closed the day of the spill. They closed their doors because they looked ahead and saw that there'd be no more shrimp coming, so why stay open if you can't pay the people? There are people that work by the pound, and if you work processing shrimp by the pound and you can no longer do that, then you were going to lose income for a long time. In fact, one lady I spoke with in the area said that she would have two of her high school students, high school children, would come to the shrimp plant where she worked. They would help her get her pounds up by processing. They did not receive a paycheck. She did. So now she's unable to keep that volume. Therefore, the amount of money she received from the claim process was a third. So there you are. There's a situation that impacted people's ability to maintain their assets, create wealth, and to continue to keep the family together. That's a major impact, and it still continues today, because I believe out of the 20-some odd billion that was pledged for these claims, I think they've only spent about 5 or 6 billion across the entire four-state area. And in Alabama, I think maybe over $1 billion of that has come to Alabama. And of that, 75%, the number is 75, a little over 75% of the people receiving claims received less than $25,000 since the spill. And so that just goes to show you the small amounts of money that has been processed through the claims center for those who are most desperately in need of maintaining their expenses in their home. So that's an area. Now, there are some things that we are looking at doing, not just the Gulf Coast Fund, but also the Community Foundation of South Alabama. We are working very diligently to address this asset building area, starting with financial literacy. The payments that people are receiving, those payments are not being taxed. They will be taxed. There's no income being withheld. They're going to be taxed. So, if you're not thinking about a $2,000 check that you may have received from BP, that you should hold 20 or 30% of that money, then come tax time, you're going to have a problem. So we're out trying to educate those receiving those checks and receiving that income on the pending tax liability, and trying to convince them to put something back, hold something back, so that they can then take care of those obligations. So there's an entire financial literacy effort we have going forward. There's a financial network that we're putting together, where organizations, nonprofits that are out trying to help the people impacted by this can network together and at least let each other know what they're doing along the lines of asset building and financial literacy types of trainings. So those are a couple of things that we're working on, including one thing that is very important and doesn't get much attention, but individual development accounts. Somebody said, if you don't have any money that you're earning anymore, how can you save? But for those who can save, we're putting matching monies into the individual development accounts, IDAs, up to $2,000. And if we put up $2,000, the saver puts up $2,000, the federal government matches another $2,000, so all of a sudden they have $6,000. They can do one of three things: buy a home, down payment on a home, go get post-secondary education, or start a small business. And that's the fastest way to try to start building some wealth. So those are two areas that I see still having some trouble getting traction post-oil disaster: the mental health impact as well as the asset building.